And welcome back, and we're glad to have you here on the Social Justice Forums. We start in the borough of the Bronx. The careers of at least 8 Bronx Supreme Court justices will come to an end. This after the Court of Administration decided to terminate nearly every judge over the age of 70 in New York State. Chief Judge Janet DeFiore said the OCA's administrative board also denied the recertification for 46 of 49 judges who applied across New York State. Now, under state law, Supreme Court justices are required to apply for recertification, as well as undergoing cognitive exams every 2 years after turning 70 until they reach the age of 76, which is the mandatory retirement age. Now, the terminations are actually a cost-cutting measure for a court system that's actually seeking to cut about 10% of its budget, roughly $300 million. What exactly does this mean for Bronxites? What exactly does it mean for the judges and those persons that actually are going to come to the bench? Well, joining us now to share a little bit more of details is the founding partner of the Haicken Law PLLC, Matthew Haicken. And Matthew, good to have you here with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we took the long way around, but the bottom line is some judges are going to be out of work. And, for 46 of these judges, a lot of questions as to, first of all, how this all came about and what this actually means for them. But let's talk about this. Any surprise that 46 of these judges were not reinstated?
Yes, I was surprised. I didn't see that coming. I'm not sure if other people did, but usually, there's this old law we have that once judges hit 70, they have to be recertified, and they have to go through these cognitive exams, which seems really insulting to the judges. And it's really just a pro forma thing. I think in general they're just recertified regularly, but there's this cost cutting measure, and it seems just to be. I mean, to me, it's a really bad idea, and there are many other ways they could. The Office of Court Administration could save money. I know everybody's hurting in the pandemic, but this is a time when we need more judges, not less judges. And getting rid of judges is just going to make things go even slower. And because of the pandemic, now I'm happy to get into that. Things have been pretty much just. I know only the civil side. I do personal injury, so I don't know the criminal side. But everything is pretty much just at a standstill.
Yeah, and when we talk about this, I mean, we on all of our shows on Bronx that we talk a little bit about the criminal justice system. We talk about the court system overall and how it's been deeply impacted by the pandemic. We know already prior to the pandemic, there was a backlog of cases, right? Now you've got this pandemic. You've got 46 of the 49 judges who will not be returning to the bench. And the obvious question on the hearts of New Yorkers is, how is this going to affect me if I've got a court case? How's it going to affect me if I've got something, in abeyance, if you will?
Yeah, it's going to make everything go even slower. For instance, in personal injury cases, which is really all that I know, the insurance company, usually if you get injured, you sue, there's usually an insurance company that's defending the case, or if it's a self-insured entity like the city of New York or the transit authority, the whole goal of the defendants is to delay, right? They have the money in the bank, in the stock market, wherever it is. They want to just hang on to that money as long as possible, earn that interest, and just try to delay as long as possible. It's just kind of the general defense. And they only really pay top dollar when they see that there's a trial date coming up, or even, a lot of times, a lot of cases settle mid-trial. They settle after you pick a jury or as you're about to go to a jury trial. And with the court system, shut down for there were 8 months approximately where there were no trials. Cases did settle, but all the insurance companies and the city, they made everybody take a discount. Pretty much they said, if you want to settle now, who knows when there's going to be a trial. Our old weapon of, we'll see you in court, it was like, we'll see you in court someday.
Right.
Who knows when? So the cases did settle. It definitely had to take a discount. And then the courts did open up. It was good. I think Judge DeFiore did a great job. She got the courts across the state open They had some trials. They had all these COVID protocols in place, but it only lasted a few weeks. And now there's this second wave, which really shouldn't have come as a surprise to anyone. And now they close all the courts, and there's Judge DiFiore, which she's the chief judge of the Court of Appeals, and she's in charge of the court system statewide. She issued a statement, I think it was 2 weeks ago, saying that Zoom jury trial, virtual jury trials are going to start ramping up, I believe was her word, but there was no set date. She didn't say anything concrete about when it's going to happen. And now the insurance companies they're just laughing. I mean, they're laughing all the way to the bank. Who knows when the trials are going to start. And it's really a disaster for people who have a court date coming, theoretical court date coming up,
Right.
especially if someone's injured and they're out of work. They're waiting for that court date, and it's really it's in the best interests of everyone but the insurance companies to move these cases towards trial, especially if let's say someone was injured, hit by a car or whatever, and then now that person they had a bunch of treatment that was paid for by Medicaid, or they're on, they're getting SNAP benefits or Section 8 housing. Once they go to court and they get a nice settlement, they'll be able to pay all that money back to the government.
Right.
So it's really, in a lot of instances, in the government's best interest to get these cases moving. But for whatever reason, there just seems to be, I don't know what it is, but there seems to be no motivation to get virtual trials going. And they've happened in other states.
Right.
Sorry, I don't mean to be rambling on here.
No. Look, I was going to jump in and ask the question. So when you talk about that, right, you talk about virtual trials. You need judges in order for these trials to occur. So if we're taking 46 out of the 49 right here, and we're talking about, in the Bronx, talk to me about how do you replace these judges? How quickly can we get new judges to the bench?
I mean, I think my understanding is that they're not going to be replaced. I mean, they could have. I mean, these are, by default, I mean, these are judges over 70, so they've been around. These are some of our most experienced, learned judges. I mean, these are the people we should be asking to stay longer, I think. And my understanding is they're not going to be replaced. They're just going to be, this is just going to be empty seats, and it's just the cases are going to be handed off to other judges. And I have 2 cases in front of judges in Manhattan, not in the Bronx, but in Manhattan, and they were 2 of the 46. And one of them, everything's done, except we're just waiting on the judge to decide some motions. And as soon as the insurance companies found out that the judge is not going to be here anymore, they reduced their offer. And they just because they know it's going to be, who knows how long. The motions are going to go to another judge, and that judge already has a full caseload, so that those motions are going to go to the bottom of the pile. So we might have a 6-month delay until the next judge decides these motions, the pretrial motions, and then who knows when we'll actually get to trial. So it's really, I've in my 13 years doing this, I've never had an insurance company make an offer and then reduce it.
Mm-hmm. And that's what you're finding right now.
Yeah, they're just, I mean, they're reading the tea leaves, and it said, well, they know that the plaintiffs are going to get desperate. No judges, no trials, and they're dangling, they're bottom feeding. They're just giving these very small offers, and they know people are going to get desperate, and they're going to start taking them.
Yeah. For future clients that, you may be dealing with, talk to us about what kind of conversations do you have to have? I mean, that's a very hard conversation to have, to say possibly, potentially, listen, you have a legitimate case,
Right.
Possibly could win, but do you have enough strength, patience to wait it out?
Yeah, it's really hard, especially, I have a client, an older gentleman, he's pushing 80. And he said, well, this isn't fair. If, I said, this could be years before we get to trial. And he was saying, well, can't we just settle quickly? I said, I would love to settle quickly. I mean, and often you can get a quick settlement. You have to take somewhat of a discount, but you can settle cases, within a year of the accident. Um, and he was saying, "Well, I don't understand. This isn't fair. If we wait too long, I might die." And I had to say, "Well, that's what they're hoping. Like
Right.
that's I mean, it sounds awful, but that's like the insurance company's dream with an older client, especially now with COVID. Um, if the client dies, you really don't have much. I mean, the case pretty much vanishes. So they would love that. And that's just that's their game. They hold all the cards now because our leverage is gone. With these all these judges gone, and no trials on the horizon.
Yeah. So the honesty is that the insurance companies are, pretty much happy about the situation with the backlog and all that's going on. For an average person who doesn't know, right? You talked about a settlement, reaching a settlement, and then moving, closing that settlement out. Give us an idea from the amount of time that a judgment is rendered for, your client, to the time that the insurance company has to actually pay that settlement out. Is there a long wait period engulfed in that too?
No, no, that's pretty quick. When once you settle a case in New York, they're supposed to pay within 21 days, unless it's the city, they have 90 days. And if you get a verdict, I believe it's the same thing, unless they appeal it. But once you actually, once the papers are signed or the jury renders a verdict, payment's pretty quick, unless the other side of, unless they appeal, which can happen. That could be another couple of years. Um,
How often
but
do we see appeals?
I mean, I would say more than 90% of cases settle before trial, and then of the cases that actually go to trial and go to a verdict, appeals. I'm not sure. I would say
Lower
small,
percentage.
small
Yeah.
amount.
Yeah.
Probably less than 50%. Uh,
Hmm.
but I'm really not sure on that. But
Right.
it's the rare case that gets that far. It's the cases that the average person who's been in an accident has a case. Once they get close to trial, everybody starts getting a little nervous. The insurance company, wow, they think, wow, this jury could give a lot of money, and that might be upheld on appeal. And the plaintiff side, my side, we think, yeah, we could roll the dice and get this big verdict, or the jury, for whatever reason, might give us nothing,
Hmm.
or might give us less than they're offering. So everybody starts kind of becoming a little more realistic. You look through your file a little more carefully. You see maybe some flaws you didn't notice before. The insurance company does the same thing. Maybe a witness you thought was going to be able to show up can't. Everybody starts, in that month before you get that trial date. Everybody really starts to comb through their file, and each side has to sit down with their client and say, okay, we might want to settle this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then
What,
sometimes you go to trial.
mhm. What are the conversations that you're having with other attorneys? I mean, obviously, 2021 is right around the corner right now. We are in the month of December. Give us a little bit about what your conversation is looking towards the new year. Obviously, we're trying to overcome this second surge. In addition to the second surge, you've got all the collateral damage that actually falls out and literally falls into your lap. So, talk to us about what are you expecting going into 2021.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be tough. I mean, other lawyers are saying the same thing. I mean, everybody's of course hoping for a vaccine, hoping to get back to normal. We would love to have trials in person. I mean, there's the whole issue of, even if you have a trial on Zoom, are you going to get, what kind of trial are you going to get? Is it going to be fair? People going to be paying attention? But everybody I know, they're having difficult conversation with their clients, and they're saying, look, this is the offer. I'm sorry. I know you thought you were going to get more. You could take it now, or you could wait. Maybe we'll start having trials in a few months. Might be 2 or 3 years. You know, um, and there have been Zoom trials. This is the frustrating part for me. Florida I believe Florida was the first state. They had a trial. It sounds like a joke, but it's really true. Florida had a trial in August about an injured stripper. I guess in Florida they're considered essential workers. No, that was a joke, but
That's the joke
I'm from
there.
Florida, so I can but there was an injured stripper she was injured. She got beat up by the bouncers. She sued. They had a full Zoom jury trial. Everybody was in a different location. It worked. And then there was an article, I believe 2 weeks ago on this website, Law 360, about a federal judge in Seattle, Washington, who is like the pioneer. She started having Zoom jury trials. Now other judges are doing them. This can be done. It's not that complicated. I mean, I'm sure you've been on Zoom calls with a lot of people. And she talked about how she thought maybe there was going to be a generational divide, but people could figure it out. I mean, I've been on Zoom wedding calls with people in their 90s and they're using Zoom.
Right.
And the other issue was, what if people don't have a computer or they don't have internet access? And I mean, that's not a hard fix. It's an easy fix. The court system can give people computers. And, in New York, if the court system is saying they don't have computers, they don't have the money, every personal injury lawyer in New York would donate money to the court system for them to have laptops to give to jurors. I guarantee it. So it just doesn't seem that logistically difficult. And in the article, this judge, Heckman, she addressed all these issues. She thought people wouldn't be paying attention, but in her impression, I mean, she's a federal judge with 30 years experience. She said she felt people paid just as much attention on Zoom as they did in person, and they didn't have to deal with, somebody missing the bus, somebody caught in traffic or whatever, somebody stuck in line at the metal detector at the courthouse. So of course, there were some technical glitches, but it wasn't any more than in a normal setting.
Yeah.
So I think it could work.
Yeah, it could work. We'll see how it goes. 2021 right around the corner. Of course, we'll see. And we got to have you back, Matthew Haicken. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Social Justice Forums.
Thanks a lot. Okay.
All righty. Well, we want to give you this note about Bronx judges that were affected in that. As we say, the numbers were actually 46 of the 49 were actually, well, let me see, 46 of 49 were not recertified. Of those 46 that were not recertified, 8 came out of the borough of the Bronx leading all counties in soon-to-be terminated judges. Judges in the Bronx who lost out on the recertification: Justice Ben Barbato, Justice Robert Johnson, Justice Donald Miles, Justice Howard Sherman, and Fernando Tapia. 3 criminal term justices, Lester Adler, Stephen Barrett, and Nicholas Icavetta, will also be let go. And so we'll continue to follow the story here on the Social Justice Forums and how it actually plays out, particularly in the borough of the Bronx. Stay with us. We do have more show coming up. We'll be right back in a few.